Okay, let's dive right into this. Everyone's talking about Tesla's Robotaxi project, right? But what's the actual moment it flips the switch for the market? I mean, the real game changer. That's what we're going to break down. We're going to look at analyst Warren Redlich's core idea to figure out what that single crucial event really is.
So, the big question, the one everybody's asking is, are we there yet? And with all the news coming out of Austin, Texas lately, it really feels like the answer is getting closer and closer. And get this isn't some test track or a simulation anymore. We're talking about full, unsupervised rides with the general public, happening right now in Austin. The tech is real, it is literally on the streets.
Okay, but let's take a step back and get real for a second. Right now, the fleet they're tracking is about 240 vehicles. Now, don't get me wrong, that's progress, for sure. But it's, a drop in the ocean compared to what's needed to really shake up the entire transportation market. So that leads to the real question, when does that number get big enough to actually matter?
And that right there, that brings us to the core of this whole debate. What is the true inflection point? That tipping point where the market just has to pay attention. Well, it turns out there are kind of two competing theories on this.
So what's the magic number? Well, on one side, you have folks saying it's about 1,800 vehicles, enough to show, hey, this works on a small scale. But then you've got people like analyst Warren Redlich who say, nope, not even close. He thinks the real number is way higher, 10,000. So why such a huge difference? Well, it all comes down to a simple question. Who are you actually trying to convince?
And see, that's the absolute heart of the argument. It almost doesn't matter how many cars are on the road if the only people paying attention are the ones already inside that tech enthusiast Tesla bubble. The real test, the real challenge, is breaking out of that bubble.
This, quote, guest nails it. For Wall Street, for your average person, for the bean counters crunching the numbers, a cool tech demo is just, well, it's a stunt, it's noise. They speak a totally different language, and that language is money. It's revenue.
So, what's it going to take? What's the catalyst? What is that one thing that can finally take what's happening in Austin and translate into something that Wall Street has no choice but to listen to? And here it is. This is the core idea. The real inflection point. It's not a number of cars. It's not a technological breakthrough. It's an accounting event. It's the moment Robotaxi stops being an R&D project and becomes its own official, separate line item in Tesla's quarterly report.
It's actually a pretty simple chain of events when you think about it. First, you get the fleet to 10,000 cars. That scale starts generating serious money. So much money that they have to report it. And the second it shows up as its own line on the financials, it's not a story anymore. It's not a promise. It's a hard number that the market has to deal with.
All right, so let's dig into that 10,000 number. Why is that the key that unlocks everything and finally gets this thing outside of the bubble?
So why 10,000? It's really just simple math. The projection goes something like this. Each Robotaxi could bring in about $50,000 in gross profit a year. So you multiply that by 10,000 vehicles, and bam, you're looking at $500 million a year. And a number that big, there's no way you can just tuck that away in the other revenue column on a financial statement. It's just too big to ignore.
And that's what we can call the financial inflection point. It's that moment when the technology becomes undeniable because the money becomes undeniable. It's basically the Rosetta Stone that translates cool tech into actual, tangible market value. This really shows the whole situation perfectly. Right now, you've got this massive gap, right, between what the true believers in the bubble see and what Wall Street is actually willing to bet on. That financial inflection point, that's the bridge. It's what finally closes that gap and pulls the whole market onto the same page.
And this is where it gets really interesting for the long haul. Because once that first real revenue number is officially on the books, it's not speculation anymore. Analysts can finally build models off of it. They can start projecting what 100,000 cars would be worth, or 1 million. The story suddenly turns into a spreadsheet. And trust me, that changes absolutely everything.
Okay, so let's wrap this all up. The key takeaway is this. Robotaxi tech, it's already here. It works. But the real test isn't just about the technology. It's about making it visible to the people who move markets. And that visibility isn't going to come from more cool demos. It's going to come from a line item on a financial report. That is the real inflection point.
So that leaves us with a really fascinating thought, doesn't it? If the true test for any new technology is the day it finally shows up on a balance sheet, what other huge, game-changing ideas are out there right now, flying just under the radar, just waiting for their own financial inflection point?